Now we can go.
Please bow your heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for all of your civil servants. Thank you for their hard work and sacrifice. May you continually bless them. May you generously give to each one of them wise and discerning hearts to skillfully govern the people in our city. Give the mayor, city leaders, staff, and city council wisdom so that they may solve problems, distinguish between right and wrong, and bring order, stability, and prosperity to our community. In your Son's most holy name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, okay. Council, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Dugas,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Oliver. Here. Councilmember McAdams. Here. Councilmember Vincent. Here. There you have it. I'm also here. I know, but.
I didn't realize you were taking roll.
I'm sorry. He's new, you have to forgive him.
Yeah, I don't normally do that.
I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Item 4 on the agenda, approve the minutes of the October 10th, 2022 City Council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 10th, 2022 City Council meeting.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second to approve the October 10th, the minutes of the October 10th, 2022 City Council meeting. Are there any questions? Being no questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Dugas.
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver.
Aye.
Councilmember Vincent.
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5 will be received the minutes of the October 11th, 2022 zoning board of adjustments meeting. I believe everybody got a copy of that.
Yes.
Item 6 will be a presentation of a proclamation designating October 24th, 2022 as Eli Scott Day. Mayor Pro Tem Dugas. You want the mic? It's up there. Okay.
Sure, it's up there. Mr. Scott, will you with us? For those of you that don't know, this is the young man that reported the animal abuse. He videotaped the animal abuse, and because he did, the police were able to make an arrest. So the city of Groves is going to give him a proclamation. I, Rhonda Dugas, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Groves, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2022 as Eli Scott Day. The City of Groves would like to recognize Eli Scott for his unselfish act in the effort to save the 5-month-old puppy, Justice, from dying. The puppy had been kept without food or water in a cage in the southeast Texas heat. Eli heard the cries of the puppy and started recording from his bedroom window the terrible scene of the puppy dying. He called his dad and stepmom, but before they could get there and arrive home, the puppy Justice died. They immediately called 911. Because of Eli's courage and the recording, the police were able to make an arrest and bring charges against the perpetrators of this cruel act. Thank you, Eli, for being an example for children everywhere to care for God's innocent creatures and setting a standard we can all be proud of. In testimony whereof, witness my hand and the seal of the City of Groves this 24th day of October 2022. You can take pictures.
Y'all are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but y'all are also welcome to skedaddle if you have somewhere to go.
Football practice.
It can be a tad boring.
Thank y'all. Thank you so much.
Item 7 will be reports, Mr. Sosa.
Mayor, we have two reports, one by the fire department, fire chief, and then one by me. It won't take very long.
Mayor and council, a couple of weeks ago, I was meeting with our HR director, Stephanie Gasper, and we were going over the new CBA with the firefighters union. And we noticed an issue with their holiday rate, and there is a copy of what it has in there. We noticed that section 8, line item A was the old way. You read through it, and then you get to D, and it's the new way. So they contradicted each other. So I contacted our attorney that drew it up, and she apologized for the error and everything. She advised for us to meet in an open meetings and discuss an amendment to the CBA. Since it's not really costing the city anything because we were gonna go by the new way anyway, and it doesn't change anything, sir. It doesn't change anything with benefits at all or monetary at all either. She said we could just do an Open Meetings Act. We do a approval from both sides and to do an amendment to the CBA. So what the amendment to the CBA is going to be, the original A is going to be scratched out and the others will be lettered A, B, C is all we needed to do. So she apologized for it and she would get that done. But I met with Hayden Grove, president of the union, and everything was good with the union. So we signed it and this is the copy of it right here. Just wanted to present that to you folks of the change on it. Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
I said thank you.
Mayor, just two items tonight. One item is I'm happy to report that 3 of our 4 garbage trucks are running very nicely. And our 4th one should be back and running this week. So we'll have all 4 of our garbage trucks running. Recently, we've made a change I wanted to make council aware of. We have moved our meter department and meter function out of City Hall and moved it to Public Works under Mike Kentrup and his crew. They have a lot more resources, they have a lot more manpower, and we feel like they're going to be able to do the things we need to do, improve the readings, eliminate the estimations, and get this done in very short order. That's the only 2 things I had tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Gentlemen from the VFW, do you have a report today? You're not required to, I'm just figuring
I'll give you a quick.
if you have one.
I do, actually, I do. Sunday, the 23rd of October actually marked the, I don't know how many years anniversary, I'd have to go look at my notes, but it was the anniversary of the Beirut bombing on Sunday. And we had 241 Marines that died that day that happened. So we want to remember them and keep those families in our prayers because a lot of them are still grieving over that day, even after this many years. Same with 9/11. The other thing is we have Veterans Days activities coming up, a lot of them. We will be in Groves Middle School on the 8th all day. So if any of you from the council, Mayor yourself, would like to join us for that, we'll be in the library all day. We'll begin that session with the pledge and of course the Star Spangled Banner at the flagpole. And then the rest of the day we'll be going through with the 8th grade classrooms. They'll meet in the library with us and we'll have some open discussions and Q&A with the kids. They can ask us different questions. We call it our living history. So you get the real history from the real vets that were actually there instead of what you get in a textbook. And we'll do the same thing in Fort Neches the next day on the 9th. So, and we will be signing up for the Groves Christmas Parade as soon as that is available. And I still have to give the $80 so that we can join the chamber. We signed
Mr.
up.
Ronnie's right there. Or Ms. Becky.
Yeah. We have everything done. I just need to deliver the cash. So other than that, we are very busy. Please keep in mind the veterans and their families as we go into this holiday season. Of course, we have our 22 a day that we always remember. That's our suicide rate, 22 to 23. We try to bring that number down. The holidays is very, very tough on a lot of these young veterans from this last 20-year war and our Vietnam veterans as well. That is a time when they get severely depressed, especially if they are suffering economic hardships, which many of them are at the moment. We are helping several veterans in need. We did help a family that was on the verge of becoming homeless. We put them up in a hotel for 5 days. A mother that is about 8.5 months pregnant with a high-risk pregnancy and 2 young children. So we took care of them, and we're working with this. She's an Army reservist. We're working with her command to make sure she has a stable living environment. So those are just some of the things. And you remember the report that I gave the first time that we were here, and it looks like we're going to far surpass that number this year. We had 706 community service reports for 21, 22. 22, 23 looks like it's going to almost double. So, and we were right at $100,000 worth in community service. So we're reaching out to a lot of our financial institutions and our businesses so that we can get them to help replenish our veteran relief funds, because we are definitely in need of some funds. So if any of you have any contacts or have any knowledge of any grants that we can apply for, we would greatly appreciate the information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's all the reports.
Yes, sir.
On to citizen comments. We'll accept any citizen comments at this time. Any citizen comments? Last call, citizen comments. All right. Move on to item 8A, consider authorizing the use of the hotel motel tax funds to advertise the Groves Christmas Tree Trail.
Make a motion to consider authorizing the use of hotel motel tax funds to advertise the Groves Christmas Tree Trail.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second to consider authorizing the use of hotel motel tax funds to advertise the Groves Christmas Tree Trail. Do we have any questions? Mr. Bono, do you have anything to add to that?
No,
I get, oh, you gave us a list of what it's being used for, didn't you?
yeah, no, we
I have a list.
we have people that are still signing up, and they have, I think, the 2nd of November, businesses to sign up. I think, we've got it on the sign in front of the activity building for anybody to be aware that we're going to sign up and vote for that. Hopefully that'll go well. We're ahead of ourselves right now.
I have the actual, application here. The application was for $8,000.
Right, now that was the 2 Christmas Tree Trail and the small business side.
Oh, this is both of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it does say this one. If anybody wants to see this, I can pass it to you. And there's a list of the advertisements from iHeart, KFDM, KBMT.
Everybody should have got one of
It
theirs.
Did they get it? Yeah.
It was in our packet,
Yeah.
Oh, y'all have one too? Okay. I didn't know you had
Yeah.
that. I didn't, I looked for them earlier. I didn't see them. Okay. Have any other questions? Any questions? No questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Dugas.
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver.
Aye.
Councilmember Benson.
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, and the businesses that participate, thank you very much.
Guess we gotta do it again.
Yeah.
Item 8B, consider authorizing the use of hotel motel tax funds to advertise small business Saturday in Groves.
Make a motion, we consider authorizing the use of hotel motel tax funds to advertise small business Saturday in Groves.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to consider authorizing the use of hotel motel tax funds to advertise small business Saturday in Groves. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Okay,
Yeah, I would add that, as you all get sales tax reports, and our sales tax has been very, very strong the last 3 out of 4 months, actually, all the last 4 months. So all these are really important. And I think that we're seeing a big, big increase in our sales tax, and every little bit helps.
any other questions? No other questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Dugas.
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver.
Aye.
Councilmember Menzel.
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 8C, receive the cost funding and scope updates from Schneider Electric regarding wastewater plant improvements.
Mayor and council, we have Craig Nesselbrink here tonight with Schneider Electric, and he's brought a presentation to kind of tell us where we're at, and I believe he's got some hard numbers to go along with the recommendations on the sewer plant improvements.
Yes. Gary, Mayor,
Oh,
Council,
well,
thank you.
I guess we need a motion in a second for that. No motion. No motion, informational.
Information, yep. So you have the written summary here. It's my intention to go through this quickly in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But if there are, it's open forum, so if you have any questions, just let it rip, and then we can also, anything afterwards, to go back to D if there's any follow-up questions. The intent here is to deliver the scope and price to you today, collect that feedback over the next few weeks. We're working with legal on the T's and C's of a potential construction contract, and with Lamar on the funding, and then come back in December and talk about this for action. That's the intent. So I'm going to jump through this and just, you see the agenda here that we're going to try to run through. You see the team as it stands right now. Craig Nesselbrink here, Ryan Wonder sitting over there. He'll come up in a second and talk about the scope. I'm the program lead. Ryan has been doing project development, and we have a team of about 15 or 20 folks as well. The goal is just to scope, cost, and schedule. Very standard. This is what we've been talking about for the last 6 months, and so now we're delivering that price. But in doing that, I want to describe, how we got here, the path to this point. And so it started with the current state, the 25-year-old plant. If you're on the current state slide, the plant to this date, I really want to compliment Troy, Kobe, and their team out there, because I believe the work they've been doing has extended the plant and a lot of those components for longer than their useful life, right? Typical 15 or 20 years. The plant's been operating very well for 25 years, as you see in the slide, but, right? So, and here the but is that critical systems equipment have exceeded their useful life. The parts and equipment are no longer available. The maintenance has turned reactive, and it's really not set up for any growth or technology in the future. The supply chain problems that we're all suffering from right now these guys are managing that pretty well, but it manifests itself in an increased risk, I think, because there's Kobe, you were even saying there was an incident today with one of the blowers. And really it depends on the part, whether you're going to get it today or whether you're going to get it 6 months from now, right? And so, and there's not a lot of redundancy left. And so these things, as much as I continue and we continue to compliment the team and Public Works and at the plant for doing a terrific job, especially in these last 5 or 10 years, the theme now is that these critical upgrades and replacements need to happen. The work to date for us is we came in here right when COVID started, and maybe a little unaware of the massive impact that was gonna have on everything. But, I can say in looking back on that, it slowed us down a bit. As we went through the engineering process and conducting the surveys and audits, and then came back with a total repair and restoration plan in the fall of 21. We presented that here. That was pretty expensive, you know, and we'll look at this towards the end. And then sitting with you at the beginning of this year, the statement was made, we brought that down to about 9, what we considered the critical path items. Your feedback was, let's make sure that we put this in alignment with the budget, right? And so we went from 9 down to 4 items, and those are the 4 we talked about 4 or 5 months ago, and these are the 4 that are being presented today financially. So the future state is improvements and upgrades to the headworks grid, the screening, the aeration blowers, digestion blowers, and all the associated controls that are going to help set this plan up for the next 25 years. Quickly, I'm going to have Ryan come up and talk about those 4 primary scope items. When I finish here with the benefits, if you're on the benefits slide, the thing that I think is going to maybe drive the most conversation amongst the group here is that I think Dee and the team have been doing a fantastic job of looking at creative ways that this thing can be paid for, right? And that's the end result. So when we're talking about this project, we're looking at grants, rebates, cost credits, and minimal to no rate increases for the community. And so there's a cash flow piece at towards the end of this, but that I think that's part of making and having the scope get smaller and smaller was to get it more within reach with regards to funding mechanisms that existed within the city currently, rather than going out and taking on any debt. It provides the highest, this scope, as we've talked about earlier, provides the highest energy savings. And remember, we did a little M&V workshop probably 3 months ago where we talked about how Schneider, one of the differentiating factors is that we guarantee those energy savings. So that's guaranteed revenue, quote unquote, right? It's guaranteed top line to help fund this project. And so this, in addition, the scope significantly reduces the failure risk. So we're dealing with the blowers in the aeration and digestion for the most part. Again, part of what got cut out was the dewatering, some of the things, and those are needed as well. But right here, a lot of the energy is saved in these areas, and we're creating redundancy with the electric blowers going in. The gas-fired blowers that are there have been sort of, how we lovingly say, dead in place. They've not been operating for a while, and so we're down to just 2 with a little bit of redundancy on the aeration digestion. This would improve that redundancy and limit the risk moving forward. It also helps stabilize both the energy and the operations and maintenance budget moving into the future. And the scope, as you'll see, this scope going that we're talking about helps both energy and operation and maintenance savings of right at about $100,000. All right, so I'm going to have Ryan talk about the scope breakdown, and the first item on that is the headworks.
All right, yeah, thank you, Craig. So I just want to talk quickly about the 4 scope items and talk a little bit of technical information, but not too deep. And I also want to help answer any questions that you might have about this. You know, the first 2 scope items, the headworks screening and the headworks grid, is really, that's the beginning. That's where everything comes into the plan, and it's very critical to take and remove the grit and the larger solids right off the bat. All that stuff that's not captured is going into the plant. It's doing 3 things. It's jamming things up. It's filling up the reservoirs so that the plant has less capacity. And then, just like you can imagine sand coming through the plant, it wears things out. So it does those 3 very destructive things. This new equipment is significant because we're changing from 1-inch screens, that is screening with 1-inch wide openings, to 1/2 inch. So that's a huge difference right off the bat. And then we talked about this second piece of equipment. You can see that there, that's the grit classifier. And that's gonna go through and remove that sand, at least a significant amount of it right off the bat. Sand is very destructive throughout the entire process. And we wanna get rid of that right off the bat. The third and the fourth are really where the bulk of the energy savings happen. This third step here, the aeration bases, this is the heart of the wastewater treatment plant. This is where the influent comes in. It's treated with oxygen. You can see here that in the center, there's a photo of one of these basins that's been emptied. You can see that matrix of diffusers across the bottom. There's literally over 2,000 that are gonna be in these tanks. And they inject air into this manifold, and it comes out of these diffusers as a very, very fine, almost like a cloud inside of that liquid mixture. And so that's the process. That's exactly what's breaking down that influent. Like Craig talked about, we've got a picture on the left that shows a couple of the 4 different blowers there. You can see that one on the left is one of the old natural gas driven engines. They're completely failed. And then the electric driven motor right next to it. So redundancy is a key part of this. This is the heart of the plant, and we want to see as much redundancy here as possible. So in this project, we go from 2 functioning blowers to 3. So really, you have a completely redundant blower, which is very significant. This is the key to making sure that the plant meets that permit. And then over on the right, we've got a picture of what that new blower looks like. If we were to tear it apart and look at the actual compressing technology, we're changing from a multi-stage centrifugal blower, which is an older technology. It doesn't lend itself very well to variable speed operation. The current blowers that are there now, it's a great technology. It is efficient, but it does not lend itself to variable speed operation. The way these operate, they operate full speed all the time. And as oxygen demand is reduced, they simply close an air valve in the discharge. And so that motor runs the same speed all day, every day. The new machines ramp up and down to meet that load. So that's where this energy savings come from. It's also means less RPMs on the equipment. So in the end, we see the equipment lasting longer. So that's a significant change. On the next page, the digestion process, we see really similar blowers here. These are significantly smaller. These are 75 horsepower instead of 125 horsepower, but the idea is the same. Oxygen is injected into the medium in an effort to reduce the volume there and break that down. And then the next page, we have that as it's 4 as well, process control upgrade. So this is all of the controls that go with this equipment. This is all of the what's called SCADA control, supervisory control and data acquisition, bringing all that information back to the operators, as well as controlling all of this equipment so that that functionality of the variable speed blowers we talked about is completely automated. So it will have sensors and it'll monitor oxygen in these tanks and it'll ramp these blowers up and down in order to meet that set point, fully automatic. And that's important because what we see is wastewater treatment plants, there's a volume increase in the morning that directly correlates with use, showering, and then there's a lull in the middle of the day, and then there's a water increase in the afternoon, evening time, and then overnight there's a lull again. So these controls are what are going to allow this equipment to perfectly match that volume every day. That is called a diurnal swing.
Any questions on the scope?
I'm sorry, it's called a what now?
That volume increase, as we see the increase in the morning and then a lull in the middle of the day and then an increase in the evening and then a lull overnight, it's called a diurnal swing. And so the flow that comes into this plant it's not the same. It is continuous all day, every day, but it slows down and speeds up across the hours.
Any other questions? And maybe something as well that as you look at this later on, if something pops up, just communicate with us because a lot of other engineering and design went into the background of this and we're willing to answer any of those questions. All right, let's talk about the costs. So on the slide identified as cost and funding sources, just to take us back a little bit, we talked about a plant replacement cost that might, at the very beginning of this process, maybe it's, hey, if all this is worn out, maybe we just build another one. 75 to $100 million, I don't think that was on anybody's radar, right? But trying to quantify what the end would be here. When we came in and did the 20-year repair and restoration plan last year, that was in the 25 to $35 million range. That price has gone up even since last November. In the last year, a lot of things have changed in that. And now what we're talking about, after you said reduce the scope down to these 4 items, is a project that comes in at a hard defendable contractable $10.99 million. There's a per ECM or breakdown on the bottom of that page. So the screening, the grit, the aeration, digestion are the 4 major components that we were talking about. The associated controls are throughout. And so it's not listed as a specific line item, but the controls are embedded in these 4 line items. But these are the 4 and how they add up to the 10,988. Questions?
Can we discuss this without a motion in a second?
You can ask questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's
Um,
no
I just
decisions
want to
being made.
make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to ask a question. I see that your total phase is the 10 million that you spoke about. Can these be done individually, or would it have to all be done at the same time?
That's a good question. And I'll start by saying that the direct answer from our perspective is no.
No.
So the controls are integrated with the components.
Right.
The grit and screening need to go together because those 2 things happen in the same basin. The aeration and the digestion blowers are where all of the energy savings are. So when I sat here in March and we talked about going from 9 to 4 ECMs, and we said, your question was, what is the most critical out of these 9? And these were the 4 that were most critical. And so that's it. It doesn't mean this is what D and it's what the city had asked for, is this breakout pricing, but I'd rather it not be viewed as a menu per se. But in the end, if we talk about if there was something that we were totally collapsing around, that the aeration blower upgrades and the digestion blower upgrades are basically 2 separate sections of the plant, right? But the grit and screening are critical to both the aeration and digestion working properly in the future, is to get the mess out on the front end. So I would say the grit, screening, and aeration are critical. We had made the digestion as critical as well because of the energy savings. That's almost half of the energy savings, 40%. And that's why we left these 4 as a grouped category.
Thank you.
If you turn to the next page on savings and cash flow, there's more breakdown. So this is the piece that if there's any, I don't know, Dee, if you want to chime in on some of this, but I'll talk at a high level. What you see on the left-hand side of the page is our savings, energy savings breakdown. And Ryan can speak to the O&M savings of 45,000 that's listed in the footnote, but that's where the 97,000 is on the line item on the top right-hand side, the 10,998, and then what we're doing with everything in the right-hand columns is trying to generate the revenue to pay for the project, right? And so in that cash flow, when we talked about some standards and we're talking to Lamar a little bit, there would be a lending event with a local lender that would result in an annual payment that's in red on this cash flow. And so I think what Dee has been working really hard on is saying, all right, we're going to take the COVID money, the government money, which is 1.9, that immediately brings the project down to around $9 million. And then items related to the idle meters and the active accounts and eliminating estimations. I think Dee just mentioned that as well earlier, is going to generate additional revenue over what is currently there, the reallocation of some lift station costs, maintenance costs, and then a sewer maintenance fee. So none of those items, those top 4 items listed involve a rate increase. But there is a calculation because those numbers haven't, the top 4 numbers, the 150, 100, 100, and 100, haven't been identified down to the penny, right? Some of that is still in work. I heard a couple of items tonight which are moving in that direction, actually. But in the end, there could be and then the way the project goes out is this project implementation is going to be 18 months to 2 years. And so there's time also on your side to understand how are these top 4 generating revenue before you talk about a rate increase in the future, or even the possibility of one. Am I saying that? Okay, Dee?
So over that, you said 18 months?
Okay, so if we flip to go 2 pages later, it says schedule and next steps. There's items 1 through 7 on that list. This is just the construction mobilization. We're not talking about what from a revenue or borrowing standpoint, not that term, but this is the construction. If we get things done before Christmas, which is what we're looking at coming back in November, December, and then we are able to mobilize and start placing orders for equipment. And what I do, I give Troy and Kobe props all the time for everything they've done, but I'm going to give Ryan some props. He's been working so hard to help solidify and stabilize pricing for equipment and getting vendors and subcontractors to hold that price until the end of the year. And so it's a lot of things that, hey, if this thing goes, we wait 6 months, then it could be a different conversation, right? And sometimes that's said, not as a, anyway, I think we're in unique times right now.
But what I was getting at over the, so 18 months, basically you're saying it's going to take to gather the equipment, what have you, not actually do the.
Yeah, we're looking at this summer of 23 that we can mobilize construction, but possibly mobilize for, we complete all the detailed engineering and we begin the construction mobilization process. But I don't have till the end of 24, a year later.
Okay, when you start the actual construction, will you do that in phases, or are you going to attack all 4 sections at once?
Right now, I might bring Ryan up, talk a little bit about it. Right now, it woefully and wholly depends on equipment lead times. And so right now we have been given some lead times where the controls and the grit and the screening are available 6 to 9 months faster than the blowers, for instance. And so it's possible that we can begin and do this in a phased approach, but we need to have that sit down at the point when we're issuing those subcontracts to the vendors and suppliers to say, what is your lead time today? You know, when we're placing the order, everybody is just giving us a thumbs up right now and saying, this is what it would be if it were today, but it's changing every 30 days, right? Anyway, so I don't know if I'm answering your question well, but it could be done in a phased approach between summer of 23 and summer of 24. That's what we're hopeful for.
Yeah, because we're looking at 4 different areas in the plant. Are you going to attack it all at once? Because that affects everything.
Yeah, I know that's.
If it would be done in sections, then
Yeah.
that goes back to her question. Can we do it in phases because of the cost?
The cost, unfortunately, is going to continue to go up for each phase the longer we wait. Right now, for this critical equipment, including the blowers, we have a phased construction approach already built in. And Ryan, maybe you can talk a little bit about, for instance, because we can't shut down anything, right? Everything has to keep operating. So changing out blowers and especially doing the grit and screening needs to be done in phases by itself, right? Where we're only doing one section, second and third sections of the bond in order to maintain an operating plant during the whole construction process. So it's already set up in phases, but it's not designed for phases that take years. I hope that.
I have a question about the sewer rates. We have to increase the sewer rates.
We were putting
So do you have
the,
an idea?
Let me go, I mean, we've already increased sewer rates this year.
Yeah.
And we expect that's gonna generate about $100,000.
Right,
Depending on what our other income items are, we figured the worst case scenario, if we had to increase rates, okay, based on what we think we're gonna bring in, if we just didn't meet any of our projections and we were short, we would look at increasing rates over the next 2 years by about $1.92 per bill per month. That's not per thousand, that's the total bill, about $1.92.
and that would help pay for it.
That would help pay for it, and that may not be needed depending on what our other items generate. For example, our lift station at Taft doesn't really need any maintenance, and we have $100,000 set aside for that in the budget. We can move that to this project, okay? Because that lift station is brand new. We have some other items that are not in need of repairs right now. We have about $100,000 set for repairs for the plant. Well, while it's under construction, we won't have to repair anything because we'll be replacing things. So we can shift those monies toward the debt service. So our goal here is to try to get to the debt service approximately, depending on what the final numbers are, between, what is it, 670,000, give or take, without a rate increase by using the 1.9 million that we have already from the government for infrastructure improvements, going ahead and shifting some monies from our current budget items to this debt service to take advantage of improving our meter reading. We have a lot of idle meters that we need to take care of. We believe it or not, we have a lot of meters that are being used and no one has set up an account, and we've got to identify those. Kind of remember the old cable days when the cable TV was on when you got there?
Yeah.
So we're working on that as we speak. So that needs to be done irregardless. But the point is, we're trying to come up with the debt service where we would not have to put any burden on the sewer or water bill, without the exception of whatever normally comes up in the next 2 years as far as chemicals, the cost of raw water, and so forth and so on.
So you think, I'm sorry. So you think that we could generate the $661,000?
I think we could, yes. I feel very comfortable based on what we're looking at and what we have to work with. And getting a head start of about 1.9 million, I think we can generate that in-house and with our own resources without a major increase in any rates.
But you see those things continuing, that money continuing that we would be able to use?
Yes, ma'am, yearly, on a yearly basis.
Yes.
while the debt service stays static, things like savings are gonna escalate with rates and inflation and whatnot. So there are other things that are kicking in to benefit as we go forward. But that there was a ton of hard work, I think, done to get this scope to match what's available.
So how long would the note be?
We're looking at either, we had a scenario for 15 or 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
This number here is for how many years?
This number represents 20 years.
This number right here represents 20, yeah. And remember, we're still working with Texas Water Board and other areas to generate rebates and things in the future that could come back and potentially fund the note as well. But for the short term, year one, year two, we're trying to make sure that that was covered. All right, so and there feels like there might be additional questions, and we're here to field those, whether it's tonight or over the next few weeks, because that's our intent, is to try to finalize this from a contractual standpoint, from a funding standpoint, and then come back to you. And
If you would, Craig, would you mention the third-party engineer review that's required?
absolutely, yeah, part of the Texas legislation for performance contracting, when we say there's going to be $97,000 of energy and O&M reduced or saved on this, is we put a guarantee behind that. That guarantee also is backed up by a third-party engineering review. And so the third-party engineering review helps both of us. It gives you the confidence to know that there's a second set of eyes that have looked at this engineering data, have looked at the current state, the future state, and said, all right, this is what the difference is going to be. And second, it's good for us, quite frankly, is because then we apply that guarantee to that. And so once we put that into the contract, then it's really not an obligation of yours any longer, right? It's an obligation of Schneider's to cover that in the future if it's not met.
In other words, they would make sure that the savings was there.
We guarantee it. I mean, and sometimes that sounds salesish, and I apologize. I'm an engineer at heart, but yeah, but that's why we do the third party review, because we get a second set of
And
technical.
also,
eyes on
we'll
this.
go to our bonding agent and we'll double check the numbers and make sure that everything is in line. Because these are, I'm not gonna say these numbers are rough, but we don't know what, this is an assumed 4.4% interest rate. It could be a little better, I don't know. But Mr. Gilly is our financial advisor, and he's done all our bond work, and we'll get with him shortly to see, make sure the numbers are where we think they are.
The last thing on the schedule next steps, there's a detailed rendering of what happens over the next 18 to 24 months, but I sort of pulled out what really I think needs to happen in the next 2 to 3 months. And that's doing the engineering, third-party engineering review, the funding approval, contract terms and conditions are in Mr. Monk's hands, I believe, and then with the contract approval back here. And I think we're talking about potentially coming back for your consideration in December 19th. I think that last board meeting, and then having a construction, or the council meeting, and having that construction kickoff in January. So that's all that I had. Any questions?
Any other questions?
It's been a process.
Oh, thank you.
And by the way, if council has any questions, and if you go home and look at this, just email me and I'll get the information from in writing back to you guys. And I'll copy everybody on it.
Thank you all for consideration. I always leave these, wanting to give Troy and Kobe a hand for the work they do out there. And especially with all the things you're seeing in the news nowadays, around the country. You guys have a great crew out here keeping this plant operational, both water and sewer. And, I think it's time for a little new equipment. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Item 8D, consider setting a date and time for a work session to discuss city finances and fund balances.
Motion, maybe.
Yes, ma'am, we did a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to consider setting a date and time for a work session to discuss city finances and fund balances.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to consider setting a date and time for a work session to discuss city finances and fund balances. Do I have any questions?
We need 72 hours.
You have a suggestion, Lamar?
Your pleasure.
We could do it at a regular meeting and just, that's what I would
I
recommend.
don't know, I think we need a work session. This is gonna be kind of detailed, I think.
Whatever y'all would like.
Anybody have a day they can't meet?
When are you thinking?
First weekend in November.
Not a Tuesday.
First weekend in November, that following week's not good.
That's hunting, isn't it? Okay, well, that's good. I
That
mean,
would
we
be the
can-
week of the seventh.
Would the Thursday, November 3rd work for everybody?
I'll be out of town.
You'll be out.
I'm leaving the 3rd.
What about the 2nd?
I can do the 2nd.
That's a Wednesday.
I'll let you.
It's my birthday, but I do.
We'll send to you.
Yeah.
Get your cake.
I'll do November 2nd.
It's a Monday, you said?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
November 2nd is a Wednesday. Any problems with November 2nd? We'll try and be fast. Or faster. Lamar, you good, November 2nd?
November 2nd, absolutely, if that's what y'all want, yeah.
I'm okay with 5. All right,
And if there's any specific questions or anything I want to identify, please let Mr. Silser know, I'll make sure it's included. 5 o'clock, did you say?
yeah, 5 o'clock. So we have a motion and a second for a work session on November 2nd at 5 o'clock. Mayor votes aye, Mayor Pro Tem Dugas,
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver,
Aye.
Councilmember Vincent, Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
All right. The date is set. Item 8E, discuss future requirements for closing streets for events.
I make a motion that we discuss future requirements. for
It says
closing
informational only.
streets. It does?
Yeah, it's just a
Where?
discussion
Information on.
on the,
Oh, I didn't read that one.
If I may, Mayor, I did talk to our city underwriter. His name is Michael Kirkendall. He works for Texas Municipal League. And it was a very good question that came up. Basically, what liability does the city have when we do close a street for an event that we are not sponsoring? As long as it's a city street, as long as it's going to be vendors, face painting, things of that nature, then we are covered, okay? When you start bringing in rides, you start bringing in things where people are jumping around, then the recommendation is that just like the chamber, when they put on the Pecan Festival, that they provide their own insurance.
Does the chamber have to provide their own insurance for the Easter egg hunt?
The Easter egg hunt would be covered because there's nothing major going
It is
on.
covered in our.
It's under the
But,
blanket.
but it's also covered because it's a city park.
Okay,
So the underwriter told me that the biggest concern would be a parade. If you close streets for a parade. And the other would be if you're bringing in the bouncy houses and things of that nature. But just for vendors, face painting, hot cocoa, I think we do something at Christmas time, things of that nature, then we are covered under our current policy.
The lady that had, was gonna be put on the event.
the fall festival.
I thought she had said something about having, the bounce deals for the kids.
We can check on that. I don't
I thought
remember.
I remembered her saying something about that.
We'll check on that.
I guess, that's great, because that was my big concern. The other thing is, I think that, the restrooms, if they're gonna have an event, they need, because they are collecting money from the, vendors that are putting in booths and stuff, so, I think they need to cover that.
I agree with Councilman Oliver, and where I'm coming from is, if it's not a city sponsored event, all we're doing is closing the street for them, then I think all financial responsibility for the city should be taken out. One, I agree with them providing their own sanitation, and two, I think they should provide their own security. if we have to hire officers to do our patrol for our trick or treating in Family Edition and Indian Springs and other things like that and other events there's no reason that someone putting on a festival couldn't hire their police to monitor. That takes us financially out of it. And they are covered. We have our normal patrol and they are not taken away from any normal patrol duties. It's not that expensive. They do it for a fair price
I agree with
and
that.
it's not too much.
I agree with that. Do you put a minimum of how many patrol officers they need?
I think that would have to be maybe an event based, but closing Lincoln, I think just one would be fine. Like events at the Casey Hall, I think they only require one. So, and as far as the sanitation goes, there's ratios of how many people you expect versus how many toilets and things like that. You would have to get with a sanitation department people to figure that out. But as far as police officers go, they would be there to basically patrol the immediate event and then call in if something was happening, just like anywhere else. If you're having to get together at your house and something happened, you call the police, they show up. But to have that immediate exposure there, I think that also takes us out of it. And I think that
We're still gonna have city workers there before and after for barricades, right?
well, they just drop them off.
Okay.
I mean, they're driving around anyway, so.
The email I sent October 17th email, and that's when, in the email, I talked about the porta potties, the businesses downtown that have reported to me to not want people coming in and using their restrooms. I covered in an email, about, the business, the organizers telling businesses that they have to pay money to participate. And Mr. Monk sent an email back to us saying that the businesses, he agreed the business and shop owners do not need the organizer's permission to sell on the street or from their businesses on Lincoln Avenue, because some of the businesses were downtown were being told this. And that's when I called Mr. Sosa, and that's when he emailed Mr. Monk so that we could clear that up. Them having a Facebook page and then deciding that they're not going to include all of the businesses downtown, that's been a concern for them. This is what has been told to me by the business owners downtown. The rate they're charging now, they're wanting to charge these businesses, it was $40. Today I got a report that the prices to participate in the event is $40 for craft vendors and $70 for food vendors. So the businesses downtown are concerned about it, at least the business owners I talked to, and some of them wanted to be here today, but they couldn't because they had other obligations. And they're concerned about the money. Frankly, when I spoke to them, I was at the Honey and Luna grand opening that the chamber had, and I spoke to the businesses and I told them, you don't have to pay anything to open your business and have a vendor on your property, because as Mr. Monk said, the sidewalk in front of their business is their property. So that's been a concern about the money, and now they've gone up on it. They're concerned about what that profit from the event, what's going to happen with the money, the profit from the event. They're concerned about that, very much so. Let's see. I think Mr. Bono had told me that at some point, and Mr. Sosa, you might know this, that was there a memo or something that past council had made up that had some kind of rules or something for events downtown?
If there was, I'm not aware of it. I
Okay.
don't remember it. I'll look. If there was, it doesn't come to mind immediately.
Okay.
Juan, do
And
you remember anything?
Yeah. It was. This was many years ago with the council, and it was not that the chamber had any jurisdiction. But it was recommended from the council to come and to discuss with us because we had the knowledge as far as how to apply for a hotel motel for advertising and just different things for an event. And there will, I know.
But she's talking about rules and regulations.
Yeah, whatever, it was a recommendation from you, actually came as an email.
Well, now, the only thing I can remember is when our pecan festival started getting to become so private that there were no more, nonprofits in it. That's when the city backed up and said, okay, this is gonna be the way it is. The city is gonna start charging. That was not it.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, then.
No, this was just a suggestion from you, actually,
Okay.
to.
I've been here 20 years, so if you
I know.
have that, send it to me, send it to me.
If I can find
If
it.
you
I
find
think
it.
he's been looking for it, couldn't find it. Let's see, another thing was the insurance that we've discussed, the difficulties with the insurance. They need to provide their own insurance, like the chamber does for their events, instead of using the city's insurance. Let's see what else.
Just to clarify, they're not using the city's insurance. The city is
Well-
insured in case something were to happen on the street, okay? Now, for
But what
example,
about the sidewalk?
the sidewalk too, because whatever is public property. Because in a lot of areas, the sidewalk does belong to the city, not Lincoln Avenue. That's a rare, difference. But just to be clear, the city is covered when these events go on, as long as they're minimal, don't have the bouncy houses and so forth. The vendors, the face painters, the hot cocoa, the Christmas tree lighting, for example, that's all, we're covered already under that. Even though it's sponsored by somebody else, the city is covered, our liability is covered. So if something went wrong and the city were to be, sued, we have coverage.
Will you be able to check with her?
Oh, sure,
the lady?
yeah, I've got some
I'm
information. I'll find out.
Pretty sure she had said that they were looking at.
I'll check tomorrow.
Let me mention this about insurance on our events. In the beginning of the year, I have to furnish to our insurance carrier, Jules and Salter, a list of all of our events, the estimated amount of people at each event, the dates, and so we have coverage in all our events that we have, and that's how we do ours. So, and if during the year we come up with a new event that was not covered, I have to call them. For example, if somebody joins the chamber, wants a ribbon cutting, I have to call them and give them that address of the ribbon cutting, so that event is even covered.
Like at Honey and
Mhm.
Lena, you had to do it for that, okay? And I wanted this on the agenda because I wanted to know Mr. Monk's opinion on some of these things. And how far the city can go, how far it can't. On the one hand, it's private, it's a private business owner organizing, an event downtown. But to me, it kind of mingles in with the city. Kind of like, well, to me, there are questions hanging in the air about it. And I think from what I've heard from the business owners, they're concerned with how they're approached about these events. And it hasn't been pleasant for them. And it was either you pay or you don't get to join in. But it's the business is private property. The sidewalk in front of it is private property, and they can open whenever they choose to. That's a private business. They should be able to do that. So the big thing, one of the big questions is the money, and do they have to pay the organizers? And I've told some of the businesses, you don't. It's your business. You can open when you want. You can put whatever you want on your sidewalk in front of you or in the street in front of you. You don't have to have their permission to do that. And I said that going off of the email that you sent.
Sure.
I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't at all. I mean, certainly that would be my opinion today, is that the businesses, as long as they're staying on their own property, then this event would not be able to restrict their ability to do business on their own property.
Yeah.
So to the extent that the event is attempting to do that, or interfering with their ability to do business. And I think that creates a set of problems that certainly council would want to address. And in the future, you know, once the audits possibly have an application and a set of rules that we would screen each event through.
Yes, and that, what I said was if the organizers want to have vendors and charge their vendors something to be there, that would be their own personal decision. But to charge a separate business owner to have a vendor for their business, I didn't think that was proper. That's just me. I mean, I just wanted to know your opinion on that kind of thing. And also, one of the things that I said in the email, I think we've already covered the chamber and how they do it, but one of the things that I said in this email, which I sent to all of you, is in the procedures book, and I brought it with me. The procedures book in section 17, citizens' request for placement on items on the agenda. There's a set of rules I think that we need to implement. I can read it to you real fast. Citizens who wish to place an item on the agenda must submit a written request to the city manager's office no later than 3 p.m. on the Friday afternoon preceding the work session to be held on Thursday of the following week. Now that I think goes back, the work session I think goes back to when they had regular scheduled work sessions. The requesting party must describe in the request the subject matter about which the requestor is interested to enable staff advance time to research the matter and accumulate facts relevant to the issue for the city council. And I think right there, it would include, you know, are you charging vendors? How much are you charging? Are you charging businesses? Or asking, well, charging businesses, how much are you charging? Then that would all be in that request to have every little detail about it, so that if we do get a complaint, we would have the information and say, well, we checked this out, and be able to confirm it with the businesses. And that's, after that's when I said that I spoke to Mr. Sosa on September 26th, council meeting day, and we have not required the request in writing. We have the procedure. I think we have this procedure for a reason, to be safe, a safety net kind of, so to speak, for the businesses, and it hasn't been implemented, but I think the city council should implement it. It is in our procedure book.
Was there a request for that particular meeting?
In writing? No, there was no, nothing in writing.
So I think we should do it. I mean, that, you know, we can vote on it, all that, but my opinion is it's in the procedure book. We should do this, and we should make sure that we cover any and all questions that need to be asked when it is researched by staff. I don't know who on the staff would do that, but I would work with them if they wanted to. So.
So to address those points, I don't think there's anything that prohibits the council from taking those actions to further screen the folks that come before council looking to have an event. And, you know, I think that there's, at this point, probably not a need for a formal ordinance related to that, but council could decide to further enforce that through a penalty. If they were going to do that, I do think that reaches the level of the need for an ordinance. But aside from that, I think there could be, you know, an application and a procedure process that was set out and that was applied to each that requested to be, to hold an event.
Whatever council decides, we have staff member, as a matter of fact, she's under special events that,
Yes,
that
we
would
do.
be, that would be able to take it as far as the council felt necessary.
And I did send an email to all of the businesses. I don't remember, I just mentioned this or not, but I did send an email to all the businesses, and I did send it to all of city council. And Mr. Monk, I had left you off at first, I sent it to you. An email to the businesses and did tell them about the legal opinion so that they had that and they could go by that. But I did send the email, y'all should have it. It's October 20th is when I sent it. So that's when I want to clear some of that up. But, can you email us, your opinion, your legal opinion on this? Like for instance, what you just said, email it to us so we have it, and then, solutions that you come up with on how council can handle this properly.
Absolutely.
Could it be that when you say vendors, there's businesses that are brick and mortar there? And it seems like they're being called vendors. Would it be that vendors would be, the snow cone stands or?
Yeah, vendors
or
are,
whatever? That would be something that we brought
the
in
businesses are
and
not the
rented
vendors. Yeah,
a spot from those, people that are organizing it. But for a storefront there,
no, the businesses downtown are not being called vendors. The vendors are the people that are coming in,
Yeah.
bringing their food or their wares or whatever to participate in the
so
event.
they're charging those people for a spot, to set up
Yes, but the business owners are being asked to pay
as well.
as well. That's the report I got. And it's not from just one person, it's from
I've heard the same.
a few. So far about 5 or 6.
I don't see a reason they can't ask them. I'm not saying they have to, but if they want to participate in an event that's bringing more people down there, I mean, that's up to the business owners themselves. I mean, if mine was down there and I had the potential exposure for an extra 150 people, I might pay $50 just to be part of the team. But that's personal opinion, not.
I think each business should decide themselves.
And that, I agree with that. But as far as, in my opinion, as far as the city goes, we're not running the event.
Right.
We're taking our financial responsibility out of it by not providing security. We're not providing sanitation. The people running the event, I think it's on them. I don't want to know what they're doing with the money. I don't care. Let them run it.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, but I agree they can't exclude people who have brick and mortar down there.
Yes.
But I do not agree that they should be charged to be out.
I think they should be asked, and if they want to chip in, that's their personal.
But if they don't, I don't think they should be restricted from.
Right.
I don't think you can make them. If they set up on the sidewalk, if they set up in the street, now they're part of the event, right? They set up on their personal property though, you can't stop them.
Right. I think the only thing it could probably, interfere with is if the, planners of the event, through advertising, if you're a brick and mortar store there and you don't pay a fee, then you're not gonna be in there advertising. So you would lose that,
And I agree with that.
yeah.
They could advertise
Sure.
on they could put their event on,
So it would be up to
the
the,
city
like the Christmas site.
Facebook page.
There's gotta be a perk to it.
Exactly. We can put you in our advertising and all that for a fee. That's
And you're talking about on the
business.
Facebook page?
Hmm.
You're talking about on the Facebook page?
Or where.
Well, that's what they're doing, they're using the Facebook page. so-
Well, if they
So
do,
Yeah.
if you don't chip in, you don't get your name on it. That's, I mean,
That's
Well,
business.
even if a business, put a vendor in front of their business, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to pay to be part of the event.
No,
I mean, that's what, I'm getting that information from the businesses, is what I'm saying. You know, maybe their cart or whatever it is too big for the sidewalk, sidewalk, they would have to put it in the street. I don't think they necessarily have to pay to be involved in the event, it's their business too.
no, I see what you're saying. If one of the brick and mortar stores puts a table out in front of their business on the street,
Yes,
I think that's fine.
yeah,
But if the event holder, says that we want $40 and we'll add you in our advertising. Being in the advertising, but, you know, I mean, I can see that, however they advertise. But no, I don't think this should be able to stop them, at all.
Well, I could see chipping in for the advertising. I see that. I understand that.
That would be.
But telling someone you can't put something on the street,
I think we're along the same line.
okay, okay. I didn't know if I was saying it all right, so.
As far as this goes, I mean, things like this in the future are gonna come up in front of us anyway.
There will be a.
We always ask them these questions. We can tell them what it's gonna require. Like Mr. Monk said, I don't know about assessing any type of penalty, so I don't know that an ordinance is needed because we can ask them to do whatever.
But
Let it be known that anybody comes before us, they're gonna have to provide their own porta potties and their own security.
But if it's an ordinance, and I'm not saying we have to have one, but if there is an ordinance, then that would be something they would have to follow. Just asking them to, they don't have to follow it. There's nothing that stops them from not doing it correctly.
Burn me once, shame on me. You ain't burning me twice. Don't come back before me.
But so you said you have the lady that, so she set up some parameters there.
I mean, right now,
Came and asked.
yeah, right
At the
now,
end of the day, it's gotta come to council to approve.
right now, we can put something together to make sure that they have the portalets, that they're responsible on sanitation security. We can incorporate that into some type of very rudimentary application. So when they come before council, all these questions will be answered. We'll know who their sanitation is. We'll know that they're gonna provide security, and we'll know that, they've got the portalets in order and what have you.
So they signed to agree to these terms.
And the council would say, grant it on the condition that you do this, and this.
Okay.
And if we see a need in the future going forward, we can always create an ordinance at that time, correct, of course. Right now, we have a little more leeway without an ordinance.
Yeah.
But if we want to create one, we can.
Mr. Monk, can you set up, an application
I can't,
that could answer our questions?
I can't.
Okay, and we would have to check that out. Make sure that what's being reported to city council is correct.
Mr. Monk, I'll check around. There may be a few cities that already have something in place, and instead of reinventing the wheel, I'll see if I can get you a copy of it, and then we'll go from there.
No, start from scratch. No, sure. Any other discussion on this topic? Any other discussion? All right. Moving on, item 9, city attorney, review and finalize the revised ordinance of the operation of food trucks in the city. Need a motion and a second.
Oh,
Is that right?
motion.
No, this is informational.
Oh. Where's it? Oh, outside the yellow thing.
You all should have a copy of the ordinance in the packet. However, there were changes that were made today. So the latest one was today's draft of the ordinance. I think most of the changes that were made today related to the structure of the fees and for clarity related to the annual nature of the renewal of the permit. So that's what you should see most in these changes. And then the changes that were already in existence came out of our workshop, of course, and attempted to incorporate the specific use language. The result of incorporating the specific use language, in my opinion, is that we've now entered into the territory where we would need a public workshop of the Board of Adjustments to have some consideration of how this works with the rest of our zoning ordinances. And I think that would be the next step for council if we're to final form with the ordinance.
So we need a workshop for the planning, is planning and zoning or zoning board of adjustments?
Board of Adjustments.
Board of adjustments.
For specific use, that's planning and zoning, isn't it?
I think the idea is that generally zoning is Board of Adjustments, and then we should have a joint public hearing for zoning changes.
We're not changing zone at this time.
We are, as part of the ordinance, adding specific uses to the zoning so that we can include the food truck, and I felt that that was
Okay,
part of the zoning ordinance. So the specific uses listed.
so that needs to happen prior to us approving this final ordinance.
As part of the process.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
I believe that it is a variance, even though it's called specific use permit, it is the same thing as a variance.
That's correct.
so that's the Board of Adjustments. Variances go before that, right?
Right, that and the change to the overall zoning plan.
Okay. Has that been set up?
It is not yet. I can get with Don.
Whenever it's, city attorney asks us to do.
Because they just met, well, we got their minutes, so.
Yeah, they just met, 2 Mondays ago, maybe, 2 weeks ago, I think.
October.
That's right, it was October. I sent that email this morning, about different changes on the ordinance, and I didn't have time to go through it to make sure everything was changed or what we needed to discuss openly at city council. So I'll go through it tonight, tomorrow, and see about that. I know one of the things that I was thinking about was under the section of definitions. You know, we've got the definitions for the site plan and all that we would
What page is
put,
that?
page 3.
Or two.
Look on page 3 at the bottom. I was asking about doing a definition for the specific use permit, and this may work into what you were just saying. That we would put the definition and we would put, how much money for the specific use permit. Was that 250 or 100 that we said?
The specific use permit itself is already $250
$250,
application. But I think we set an additional $100 fee for the site application in addition to the specific use permit.
Oh, okay,
It was my understanding of that.
okay. Is that everybody else's understanding?
I don't remember that conversation.
Okay. And some of the things under the definition would be specific use permit not required for C3. That would only be a site plan for C3. To be renewed annually from date of issuance. Must be approved by Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Decision based on case by case as presented to Planning and Zoning Commission.
You want this in the definitions?
That's what I thought, yeah. Because see, look at the site plan. See how that spells it out. See, I'm not looking at it from what I know. I'm looking at this as if I were someone that didn't know what a site plan was, didn't know what specific uses, don't know what anything is. I'm just gonna read it and try and figure it out. So I would think it needs to be as clear as possible to a layman, so to speak, that has no knowledge of it at all.
Could you put a reference? Go to, rather than putting all of that.
Is what she's asking in
It
the
is.
applicable standards?
I did add those changes, and at page 3 at the bottom, you can see where I added the definition of specific use permit and just reference, just like Councilman Oliver suggested.
The last paragraph.
Right, the existing ordinance where that specific use language is.
Okay, so that's what that is, referencing the ordinance itself.
Correct, the specific use ordinance. And the application process for that, that's right.
And that would take up all the things that I was asking for.
And I did address each one of these in the drafting. I wouldn't say that one change would address each of those things, but
Okay,
yeah, each of those items are addressed at the exact point where you pointed out that there should be some revision.
I didn't know from your legal opinion and your legal standpoint how all of this would work in, so that I'll leave that up to you.
Thank you.
You're the lawyer.
I appreciate you.
All right, well, if that's, what's needed next is to send it through planning and zoning, or, zoning board of adjustments. Get with Mr. Pedraza, get one of those set up.
Yes, sir.
I believe everybody here wants to get this put in place as soon as possible. They haven't been doing anything, so they should be well rested. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? All right, we'll move on. Item 10, city manager invoices.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor and council, the invoice approval list for October 24th, 2022 as follows. Cypress Bayou, 2 clarifiers, stump box drains on and install, $6,533.13. Fuel Man gas and diesel fuel for September 2022, $23,756.74. Industry safety training, employee handbook and preparation training, $5,500. Moody Brothers, CL2 and SO2, $7,730. Republic Services sledge disposal. Republic Services, it says Peace of Dignity program, but there's also 6 demolitions in this $18,000.28. Smart's truck and trailer equipment, solid waste truck repair, $13,362.89. Smart's truck and trailer equipment, solid waste truck repair, $13,655.50. Texas Municipal League, our workers' comp insurance, $295,940.50. And then Triangle Equipment, our wash rack maintenance and repair, $13,226 for a total of $404,616.59.
I make a motion to approve the invoice approval list for October 24th, 2022.
I'll second. Go ahead.
I have a motion and a second to approve the invoice list for October 24th, 2022. Do we have any questions?
All of these, you said under, the list of all these addresses, these were all, demolitions.
6 of them were demolitions, and when you have a demolition, you're using anywhere from 8 to 12 roll-off boxes for the demos. These are the ones that we do in-house. The others are usually just a cleanup location or a Peace of Dignity program. Occasionally, we'll have someone call in whose parents passed away. They left the house to them, and they were hoarders, so to speak. So we provide them with a roll-off there as needed, so they can get the house back in shape, get rid of all the trash, and not have to pile it up in front of the house, like a lot of people do on their property. But anyway, I just want to, 18,000 is a little high, but we have, with the 5300 Golf was a demo, the Harrison was a demo, the Simpson was a demo, the Terrell was a demo, Val was a demo, and then, the 6919 39th Street was a small demo. So there are a lot of demolitions in that we normally don't have that many. And once again, the demolitions usually run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 in the dumpster runs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, being no questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Dugas.
Aye.
Councilmember Oliver.
Aye.
Councilmember Wenzel.
Aye.
Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passed. Yellow truck up there. Item 11, councilmember comments.
Pete, can you give us a report on the latest scheduling of Kent Street?
Yes, sir. Kent Street was moved to phase 2. They are currently, LD Construction is currently working on Allison, Bay, and Woodlawn. They are doing that as we speak. As soon as they finish that project, and I would say we're looking at another week or 2, probably 2 weeks, then they will move directly to Kent. So I would think we would see them in Kent sometime in November.
That's for the road repair.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other councilmember comments?
I'd like to say that I had a really good time at the Groves Pecan Festival. It was really nice this year. I liked it. We had a lot of people out there, didn't we?
Yeah, I wanted to thank the city. I think the city and the chamber and the volunteers did an outstanding job. It was, to me, one of the best festivals we've had.
The city employees did a
Yes.
wonderful
I'm
job.
telling you.
That's what I wanted to say, to tell
Right.
every city employee that helped us. They went beyond and all, and I appreciate it.
I appreciated the police presence out there and everything is calm and you were, Mr. Mayor, you were there.
Yes, ma'am, every day. One of the important ones.
And also, I wanted to say that I really enjoyed the Honey and Luna grand opening that the chamber did. That was a fun event, very
Really,
nice.
that really turned out nice.
She has a very nice little boat,
She does.
very cute.
Is it? Anything else? I just have one thing to say. Go Astros. We're adjourned at 6:30.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it so much.
Very good.